Today, we will talk about the call by value and call by reference methods, in which the call by value means that when we are passing a value, and call by reference in which we are passing a reference. So we will know that why are they required and how do we use them with an example. Hey everyone, this is Meedhansh and welcome back to the Java series. So let's dive right into our topic, which is the call by value and call by reference methods. Alright, so here I am on the screen and let us start with the topic, that is the call by value methods and the call by reference methods. So basically it means that when we are passing values to a method, that means we are calling it by values, and when we are passing reference variables to a method, that means we are calling it by reference. So we will take a demo of it, and it is very important when we are working with the OOP. So what we are going to do is we will take the input from the demonstrate file, and then from that we are going to swap two numbers and we will give the output back. So we can create the name of the class as swapper, and now inside this we do not require any attributes because we are not going to have any constructor. We will directly go on with the method. So it is the public void do swap by value, because we will take a look at the by reference also. So first off we will go with the by value, and we will take a look at the pros and cons of it as well. So let's say integer n1 comma integer n2. It's simple till now. It's a parameterized method containing two parameters, and we will pass these two from the demonstrate file as the arguments. Now, before this, let us go back to the demonstrate and let us create the object. Swapper s is equal to new swapper, and s dot do swap by value. So we will pass the values as 10 and 20. Okay. Now that's all in the demonstrate for now, and now we will just complete the swapper class and we will test it. So now inside this, how do we swap it? So what we can do is we can take another integer, that is, let's say 10, or instead of n1 and n2, for better understanding, let us just take them as p and q. So just single letters make good sense instead of having the n1 or n2. So because we know that we are just passing two variables, so just single letters we can easily understand. So inside this, now we need another container, which is a temporary container. So since it is temporary, we will have it as t, and let's say it has the initialized value as 0. Now how do we swap them? So first off we will have the, let's say, instead of just initializing it, we will directly do the swapping. So int t is equal to p. Now in the p we had the value 10, so 10 is now copied to t. Now t contains the value 10. Now p is equal to q. Now q contained the value 20 and 20 is copied to the p. So it is overwritten. Now 10 is not present in the p, but we have the 10 safe in the temporary variable, that is t. Now the final step, q is equal to t. Simple. The integer t has the value 10, which is now given to the q. So that's the basic swap, like 10 to t. Then the next step is the we are copying the value of q, so it is 20 to p, and then the third step 10 to q. Simple. Earlier it was 10 in p and 20 in q. Now it's swap. Instead of just passing the literals, like as I told you, we will take it as the by value, but since we are passing the literals, so we cannot just access them again. So what we are going to do is we will take here two integers, int n1 is equal to, let's say, 10, comma, or let us just take it in another statement, int n2 is equal to 20. Now we will pass the value n1 comma n2, and now we have the access to them, so we can just simply print them out. As expected, we should have the value as the 20 and 10 now, and we will do the printing earlier also. Okay, Control V. So we have done the printing after swapping, and we have done the printing before swapping as well. So now we have two integers, n1 and n2. So as expected, first we should have the result as 10 and 20. So this should give out the 10 and 20. Then swapping the numbers by passing them, and now we should have the expected value as 20 and 10. So let us check it out that if it is working or not. Before that, we should just save the swapper. Now let's test. So Java C demonstrate .java, Java C swapper .java, Java demonstrate. Simple. But now here's the problem. We got 10, 20, and as expected, we should got the 20 and 10. But we got the 10 and 20 again. Why? Let us see it with the help of the diagram. So I have a structure already created for the do swap by value, and I just have the empty boxes and I'll fill accordingly. So now this side is the function side, and what's happening in the function, and this is the other side. Now here, let's go back to the function. In this swapper we have these two variables p and q. Now let us take them p and q and another one t here, there. So let's say this is our p, this is our q, and this is the t, which is the temporary variable, just containing the value of p once, the other side. So we have the n1 and n2. Both of them are the integers, int n1. I'll tell you why I am putting the int here and why is it necessary, because in the case of reference we are going to change it. Now in the n1 I stored the value 10, n2 I stored the value 20. This is it. On the other side, that is the main method. Main method is our demonstrate file. Now when I call the function, this value gets copied to the p, and this value, which is the 20, gets copied to q. This one is getting copied to the p. Why? Because I am calling the function and I am sending both of these. So this is copied here, 10, this has the 20. Now here the next step was the int t is equal to p. Now t contains the value of p, so 10. The next step is p is equal to q. That might be a little confusing, but we will understand. So p is equal to q. So the value of q is being copied to p, and we have the arrow here. So now the value of p is removed from here, and we have the value 20. Simple. Now the next step is q is equal to t. Q is equal to t. So the value of t is being copied to q. So it's a simple cycle here, like from this to this, then this to this, and this. Although this is the first step, second step, and third step. Not as cycle, but still it makes a cycle. So now the value of t is copied to q. So it contains the 10. So we have the 10 as in the q. So the swapping is done. The value, the p has 20 and q has 10. But Why did we get 10 and 20 still? The reason is that there is no change on this side. They just gave the value here. The swapping was done in this method, but there is no change on the other side. And when we are retrying to access them, like in the demonstrate, we are retrying to access them and we are expecting 20 and 10, but N1 and N2 still contain 10 and 20. As we can see in the diagram clearly, we have no change for the N1 or the N2. They still contain the value 20 and 10. Now, to avoid this problem where everything is being done, all the computation is done, but there are no changes visible on the other side. So for that, we have the second type coming up, that is the do swap by reference. So using the reference, we can easily swap the numbers and we will be able to see the changes which are done. So let us go back to the code. Now, since we are doing it with the reference variable, so the question arises is that which class is reference variable? Either we can have the reference variable of the refer class, which is the integer with the I capital, or we can create one of our own. We will write class number. Let's suppose we name it number and we will save it number.java. And inside this we have, let's say, int n. N stands for num or number. Then we have a constructor public number which contains the, let's say, n received value rv. Now n is equal to rv. Simple. And it might be a little confusing how will it work, but let me just show you. Now instead of these, what we are going to do is we will do something like this. Number. Now these are the references. So instead of this, we will do this. New number. And inside it, we will pass the values 10 and 20. The difference is that we created a new class and inside and we named it as number. And now we are creating two objects of the number class. One is the N1 and the other is N2. Like those are the reference variables for these two objects. So first off, we have this object and we are passing the value 10. Now the second one has the value 20. And once they pass, the constructor gets called. And when the constructor is called, the value is stored in the N for each and every reference. Now, since we have these values, so instead of printing N1 directly, what we will get is the address. So we can do it like this, N1.N. N is the non-static variable present in the number class, and since it is non-static and we can access it with the help of the reference variable, and we have the reference variables as N1 and N2. So we can easily access them with the N1.N and N2.N. Simple. Now we will pass the reference variable only, swapping the numbers by the reference. So do swap by value. Instead of this, we have the do swap by reference. Again, we will print it. So the demonstrate is completed and let's go back to the swapper. And here we will create another method, public void do swap by reference. Now inside this, what we are going to get as the arguments. So here the parameters will not be the integer, but since we are passing the reference variable, so we are going to store it in the reference variable only. So thus we will create two references here. Let's say number p, comma, number q. So that we can relate both of these methods. That's why I'm taking the same names, although we can take different as well. Now we have the reference variables for the number class, which are the p and q. Now inside this, we will do the same process, and like we have the temporary variable in the swap by value, we will have one here as well for the number class, so number t. Now, but the problem is that if we just take it like this. So we cannot access the dot n because it is null. If we just do not initialize it and we just define the variable, in that case the value of the reference variables is null. So for that we have to create an object and we have to connect it with the t, and we will pass the value 0 because the addresses coming here are already connected with an object, so we require t to be connected with an object as well. Now t is equal to, okay, so to relate them a little more, what we are going to do is something like this. So initializing, and then t is equal to, so we had the t is equal to p, so the value of p was being copied to t. So we can just relate them much more easier now. So t, not t here now, because if we just equate something to the t and assign it, so the address will be removed. So we have the t dot n. Dot n is the number which is present in the number class. It might be a bit confusing, but you will understand once we demonstrate it. So t dot n is equal to p dot n. Same thing which is done below. Then p dot n is equal to q dot n. Same. Now dot n is equal to t dot n. Now you might be thinking, what are those dot n's? Dot n's, like I have already told, they are from the number class, but we will understand with the help of a diagram because it gives us a better understanding and good visualization as well. So we will save the swapper, and now let's head to the paint window where I have another structure created already for the do swap by reference. And now here this is the main method side, or the other side which we took as the one in the do swap by value. So now this is the main in the demonstrate.java. Now here this is the side of the function, whatever is being performed in the function, and this is the side of the demonstrate.java. Now first let us complete the demonstrate. So here we have an object of the swapper s is equal to new swapper. We do not require to like visualize it because we already know how the object is being created here, but we need to know all these, like these two variables, so n1 and n2. Back to the pane. So this is the n1, let's keep a big one, and an n2. Simple. Now this is the object being created and it has a value inside it, like both of these objects have some value. So this one also has one and the other one. So the value name is n, or the variable you can say. Now this object is created and the reference is created, reference variable. Now this object must has some address. So the address of this object, let's say we take it as 1000. This also must have some address, like let's say 1500, 1500. Now what we are going to do is, since it is in the buffer, so we will copy this value from the buffer to the n1, which is the 1000, and now this is referring to this object. This reference variable is referring to this object, and inside this object we have passed the value 10. So this is the whole complete object with the reference variable connected. Now same thing with the other one, so 1500, this is the buffer, and the value from the buffer is now copied to the n2, and now this is referring to this object. This reference variable is referring to the object, and this object contains 20 in the n, and this object is of the number class, as we wrote the statement new number. So this object is from the number class, and inside this we pass some value. Alright, Now the demonstration is complete and let's head to the do swap by reference method. So we have done everything here and we have just swapped the values here. Now let's move on to the swapper and let's take a look at this. So now what is happening is that we will have 3 objects in total. So like not 3 but just 1 for the temp. So this is an object created over the other side of the do swap by reference and it contains the value in the n. Let's keep the n a little big so that we can easily remove the value. It contains 0 and this is the n. It has some address, let's say 2000, and now here we have the p, q, t. T has the 2000 as the address and thus it is referring to this object. Right, so here and the other side. Yes, so now they are connected and this is referring to this object. So now what is in the p and q? So the value we are receiving is copied to the p and q. So the value from n1 is sent to the p, which is the 1000, and the value from the n2 is, okay, let's just intersect with the n1's connection, something like this. So the q has the value, not 2000, 2000 is for the temp object, we have the 1500 in the q, and thus both of them are referring to these objects. If I just make the lines, it would be a little messy, so that's why I'm avoiding them. Or shall we just create one? So let's take them from a little different route. Okay, one is here, then let's create another one here, and now the third one here, or let's say here. We're not trying to destroy the object of this one, so that's why I'm just trying to take a different route for the connection. In this case, we can just simply connect it with 2 lines. Long connection, right? Okay, so this is the connection, and let me just put some referring ones for better understanding. This is referring to this direction, and finally it is also referring to this one. Now both of these objects have 2 different reference variables, and now let's just play that game of t dot n is equal to p dot n and so on. So let's go back. Now the first step is being done. Number t is equal to new number which contains the value 0 is being created. Now t dot n is equal to p dot n. So basically the value in the p dot n is being copied to t dot n. Let's head back. So t dot n contains 0 and p dot n, which is like this, is referring to this object. So it contains 10. So this value 10 is copied to this variable. So it is removed from here. Let me just make it a little smaller. Alright, so this one is removed, and now we have the value 10 copied to the object of the temporary object. So t dot n now has the value 10, but there is nothing changed yet instead of this. Now the second step is, so p dot n is equal to q dot n. So this is the q and q dot n here. So the q dot n contains the, so this is basically q dot n, this is the p dot n, and here it is the t dot n. For a little more to know, so the q dot n is now copied to p dot n. So this value is now copied to this one. So 10 is removed from here and now we have the value 20 stored in the p.n. Now the third step is q.n is equal to t.n. So q.n, where's the q? Let's find out. This is right over here. So q.n, same value, is equal to t.n. The value of t.n is now being copied to q.n. So the 20 is removed and now we have the value 10 here. Simple. So this is the whole memory map which is going on in the do swap by reference, much like looking much complicated than the other one, do swap by value. The reason is because there are just 3 objects which are changing their values, and these 3 objects are being accessed by the demonstrate.java and by the do swap by reference method as well. So let us check the output. We will just recompile everything. And now we have the values swapped. First we got the 10 and 20, and after swapping it is the 20 and 10. So this is how it is working, like this is the whole structure. Basically what's happening is that these are the objects and only these 3 objects are being accessed or being referred by both the sides. But in the case of the value, there were different variables which were being referred and accessed by the different sides. So there were no changes on the main side. But here, since there are 3 objects which are being accessed by the main side also, with the help of the n1 and n2, because we do not require the temporary for the main side. And from here we have the p and q to access these particular objects. So, and when we are changing the value inside these objects, it is also being showed to the other side, to the main, because there is just one object. And even if there are hundreds of variables which are referring to one object, and using one variable we are making a change to that object, so that change will be visible to the rest of the 99 reference variables as well. So this is how the objects work, and it is like necessary to know that how these work and how do we pass the reference variables as well. So let us just summarize what we learned today. First off, we learned about the call by value method, in which we just pass the method and try to swap them, although we were not able to do so because of the limitation in which we had the variables, and thus the variables were swapped on this side, which is the swapper side, but not on the demonstrate side. Then we got to know about the call by reference, which was the do swap by reference, in which we got to know how do we pass the reference variables. And it is a very clear thing that we cannot pass the objects. We can just pass the reference variable, because this is a reference variable, not an object. So using these reference variables, we were communicating with the same object which is connected to n1 and n2, and thus the changes were visible on both the sides. So this is how the swap by reference works and the call by reference methods work, and they are really helpful if we are doing something like this with 2 different classes where they cannot access each other's data. So with the help of objects, since they are one entity and they can be accessed by multiple reference variables, so we were simply able to do this, and we could just access the member inside the number class. So that's all for today. I hope you liked the video, and if you have any questions related to the call by value or call by reference methods, you can leave the comment down below. And thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.